welcome to SVGTV News for Tuesday, 21st August 2018. I'm Yvette Bones with the details. A strong earth tremor was experienced in SVG at around 5:36 p.m. today, lasting for about 2 minutes. It appears that the tremor was felt nationwide and in other Caribbean countries, including Trinidad and Guyana. Here at SVGBC, the effects were visible as furniture and equipment shook slightly at first, then gathered momentum, and vehicles rocked in the car park, causing employees to flee the building. SVG-TV spoke with staff and residents close to our studios who shared their experience.
I was lying down in the chair and watching TV, and then they told us to come outside, and they were just going, and then the cars were moving, everything was moving, and then I was talking to them and saying this is my first earthquake in 11 years. I never felt an earthquake before.
I was standing by Miss Gibson's shop, shelter in the rain, and next thing I feel something, and it's the first time I ever experienced that in my life. Yeah, but thank God it's over now and I feel so happy.
Felt this tremor getting up. Well, I was there asking my co-workers what's wrong, if they are playing, but then after I see the place start shaking intensely, and after just get out, exited the building, went out and see the cars them swaying, and it was very traumatizing, to be honest.
I enjoy it.
It was good?
Yeah.
You ever felt an earthquake like that before?
No, that's the longest one I ever feel.
Alright, then as I say, you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What was enjoyable about it though?
Well, experience.
The government of the Republic of China and Taiwan is on board to assist the government of SVG in the fight against diabetes. Taiwan is providing financial assistance in this regard for a 3-year span. A first tranche of $380,000 was handed over to the Ministry of Health today. This amount is part of a $2 million input into a diabetes management project which seeks to prevent and control the condition. Part of this first tranche will be used to fund the training of health personnel and to purchase HbA1c analyzers and food care kits. Cuthbert Knight, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health, accepting the check on behalf of the ministry, said this project was crafted following a step survey done for non-communicable diseases recently, which pointed to the need to prioritize diabetes.
This project is also a way of demonstrating our seriousness in tackling these non-communicable diseases such as diabetes in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is our hope that we can build on the outcome of this project. The same way the STEP survey provided outcomes and recommendations, we are hoping that after the termination of this project, which is a 3-year project, so it should come to an end maybe in 2021, I think, thereabout, we are hoping that there can be a follow-up to this project.
Taiwan Ambassador to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Calvin Ho, said he is aware of the high incidence of diabetes in this country and is positive that with this grant intervention, there would be a reduction in the prevalence of diabetes.
We hope that through this humble contribution to this project, to the country, so that our Vincentian friends can no longer face or at least release the threat of this diabetes. So I wish that in the future that our Vincentian friends can be healthier in the future and not, as I said, no longer to face the threat of this disease.
Health practitioners are currently being trained as instructors who will be part of the capacity building project. Project manager of the capacity building project in SVG, Taiwanese Chen Hua-fan, added that another batch of trainees will leave shortly for Taiwan.
These instructors will participate in a master training course to become a diabetes integrated care trainers at the coming October for 2 months in Taiwan.
30 underprivileged students are now better equipped to deal with social issues following the successful completion of a 3-year kind behavioral modification program. The program, which was part-sponsored by the Ministry of Education, saw students between 8 to 12 years of age being taught conflict resolution, arts and craft, music and sport. Akim Revere, one of the teachers, said based on his observations, children develop negative behavioral patterns from their environments, which in turn impacts their education.
Environments are toxic for children, basically, well, growing up starting from a young age, and when they see certain environments that aren't well educational friendly, they would most likely cope to that environment, being raised there and all. And going into a classroom setting, they would portray certain behaviors that they have at home to schools.
In an interview with SVG-TV News, Revere encouraged parents to help their children who portray negative behaviors at home. He said the problem is usually a simple one that parents often ignore.
That's the main problem. Parents don't really study what the child wants to be and do in the future. They only study what they say is good for them. But when you give a child, say, the ability, well, when you help the child to develop the skills they need or want to do in the future, it will be better for them. They will be more successful in that way of life.
The 3-year behavior modification program was carried out for 3 weeks in July. However, the facilitators hope that it can run for a longer period during every school vacation. Parents are being urged to provide the necessary guidance to their children, thus allowing them to reach their full potential. Minister of Foreign Affairs Sir Louis Straker gave this encouragement as he spoke at a ceremony on Friday when 90 disadvantaged children each received $350 to go towards their preparation for the new school year in September. The funds were made available through the High Commission in the UK, Senior Louis, with donations coming from members of the diaspora there. Sir Louis underscored the place of discipline to the development of children if they are to succeed, with parents playing an important role in this regard. He also extended thanks to all those who made the bursaries possible.
And I implore parents to work hard with your children and help them, guide them along, because the Bible says foolishness abounds in the heart of the child, but the rod of correction. And God knows that those of us of an older age, we were victims of a lot of rod of correction. And the Bible says if you whip the child, he would not die. And many of you are afraid to beat the child because there are different laws now relative to that. But make sure you discipline your children and guide them along. And so I want to thank Senior Louis, and Mrs. Charles was there until about maybe October last year, working with him in order to go around and mobilize the resources to send here for us. I want to thank all those who gave to him to give to you. And I trust that you would always be grateful.
Sir Louis also encouraged the children to give of their best if they are to succeed.
Every child can work hard. And if a child works hard, particularly at those subjects that he's having problem with, he would succeed. I never liked, well, in our days in primary school we had arithmetic. And we had some head teachers who really, I can see now, they really brutalized us. Because we had to get those, we call them sums, the problem solved on the blackboard. And we had to show the logic of each step. And when you miss a step, the head teacher was there with his strap to beat us. We had to do dictation. And if you got more than 3 words wrong, you would get a whipping. We had to do penmanship and all the subjects that would prepare us, discipline us for future life.
Local police constables have been challenged to exploit all avenues available to improve their quality of work. Deputy Police Commissioner Frankie Joseph issued this challenge as he spoke at the opening of the RSVG Police First Constables Conference today at the SVG Community College. The one-day conference is part of ongoing training of policemen and women and features lectures in station management, ethics and discipline, as well as financial management. Deputy Commissioner Joseph said constables are the backbone of the police force, accounting for 74% of the lawmen and women, and he challenged them to use the knowledge gained to take the police force forward.
To have a fulsome discussion on these topics and use them to re-energize and reorganize yourselves to effectively do the job that you were sworn to do. Do not be afraid to challenge one another and the presenters, because in so doing, you will definitely learn from each other. Always remember that the quality of the police force largely depends on the quality of your output to the general public.
The Deputy Police Commissioner said the conference,
in my humble opinion, to empower you is to give you the responsibility to organize and manage certain events in the police force. This conference was planned and organized by you, and I commend you for that. Use this conference to sharpen your policing craft and to put forward new ideas to the senior management of the force. I assure you that in the Commissioner and the High Command, you will find a listening ear.
It was also aimed at creating an opportunity for the constables to formulate strategies that are useful to the organization, and gave the assurance that the Police High Command will pay attention to their ideas shared. The Deputy Commissioner also encouraged the constables to execute their duties fairly and to ensure that their colleagues do the same.
Being your brother's keeper is ensuring that your brothers are committed, they are loyal, and they are hardworking to the task that they were sworn to do. Being your brother's keeper does not entail covering up for your brother's wrongdoing. Being your brother's keeper does not entail that if you're walking in an out district station, or if you're walking in a unit and your brother have been ill-treating a prisoner, that you are supposed to write to cover that up. That is not what being your brother's keeper is all about. Being your brother's keeper is to ensure that your brother is committed and hardworking to the task that they were sworn to do. Because if you do the opposite, what you are doing, you are promoting rogue officers within the organization, and that would not help in our task.
The police have charged Anwar Jack for the murder of travel agent supervisor Ian Enoch of Brighton. They stated in a release today that the 24-year-old Jack, a security guard of Georgetown, was charged that with malice aforethought caused the death of Ian Garfield Enoch, 50 years old, by unlawfully chopping him about his body with a cutlass. Enoch's body was found on Saturday morning in one of the Kyle huts at Argyle. Reports indicate that his wife had reported him missing after he failed to return home that night from a function at Villa. The police said Enoch's is the 19th murder recorded in SVG for 2018, contributing to an overall total of 20 murders. The importance of trees to the environment and the preservation of life will be highlighted as the Forestry Department prepares for its annual Forestry Focus Month of activities. Forestry Focus Month will be held in September under the theme Enhancing Our Forest Through Urban Community, and will feature the pruning of trees on the Nelson Mandela Highway, a forestry walk from Fenton to Green Hill, interactive radio programs, and an exhibition at the Post Office car park. Forestry Education Officer Melissa Jackson told SVG-TV News that the activities are geared towards teaching the public the importance of trees.
This year's theme was chosen basically to highlight things that are affecting the forest communities that in the urban setting. We usually focus on the rural areas or the rural community, forested communities, but this year we decided to bring it to our counterparts in the urban areas. So, yes, every tree counts. Every tree counts because trees are important for life. Trees are essential. They give us food, oxygen. Without those, we basically non-exist. There are some additional necessities like shelter, medicine, tools, timber, paper, etc., which we get from our forest and forest resources. Right? Trees also add beauty to life, control pollution. It absorbs the carbon dioxide which we give off, provides shade, prevents soil erosion, filtration of water, the habitat for wildlife, etc. So trees are important to our everyday.
Jackson said trees become casualties of urban development, and the department will use the activities to encourage the preservation and maintenance of trees in urban areas.
Past couple of years, we've noticed that persons have been gravitating to the urban areas due to the fact that the work may be located in those areas. So there's an influx of persons living in those areas. So some of the natural resources will be depleted because of the movement of persons from rural areas to the urban areas. So they're cutting down the trees, they're affecting the wildlife, they're affecting the water quality and quantity, they're affecting the ecosystem of those areas. So we now have to go into those areas, and we can't remove them from those areas, but we can offer some advice on how to protect the areas. Even though you cut down a tree, yes, you might need the space for planting stuff, you might need the space for building homes, but you need to also keep the environment as pristine as possible.
The forestry education officer reminded the public that the removal of trees can impact their immediate and surrounding communities.
Well, we always had this issue with persons thinking that if they have a tree in their property and they want to do some development in it, that means they have to cut it down. You don't necessarily have to cut your tree. You can prune it, right? Because trees are important. They hold soil together, right? Persons who building on bank sides and things, they have to understand that trees are holding their soil together. If they cut down the trees, they leave the soil exposed to erosion, and when we have like storms or freak storms and a lot of rain and washes away the soil, and those property owners are being affected after a while, right? And it's not just persons on the hillside, it also affects persons who live in lower down also, because all those material are coming straight down into the communities and affecting everyone.